Hi all, I'm Elsa Pastor, Associate Professor at the Technical University of Catalonia and Coordinator of the WUIVIEW Action. This is the first item of the WUIVIEW video series summarizing the activity performed during the first half of the project. The WUIVIEW Project is an action funded by the European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations Agency, the DG ECHO for short. It will last 2 years, starting on February 2019. This action is developed by a multidisciplinary consortium of 6 partners. We have ADAI, a research institution associated to the University of Coimbra, Portugal, with a worldwide recognized expertise of 30 years of research in forest fires, hosting the largest laboratory for forest fires experimentation in Europe. The Pau Costa Foundation for Fire Ecology and Management, acting as an international platform devoted to training and dissemination and with large experience in international project and cooperation activities. Then the École de Mines d'Alès, under the Armines Association in France, which are a point of reference of natural technological risk interactions. The University of Bologna in Italy, with proved expertise on safety and loss prevention, and the RISE Research Association from Sweden, leading boreal forest fuels characterization in Northern Europe. The consortium is led by the UPC, the Technical University of Catalonia, with large experience on technological, environmental, and natural risks, and with engineering background and experience in all types of fire incidents. As you know, all these type of actions make sense if there are final users and stakeholders' interests, which might be able to benefit from the outputs of the project. We have in WUIVIEW interest from different fire services, civil protection national agencies, and the fire protection industry as well. The main aim of the WUIVIEW action is to reinforce fire's risk reduction strategies by designing, testing, and later on operating a virtual workbench service for the analysis of fire hazards and building vulnerabilities at different European realities. Our idea is that WUIVIEW will be an innovative platform to perform fire experimental tests and simulation studies dealing with the structure, survivability, and sheltering capacities. By these 2 main core activities, we will be able to develop a risk analysis methodology to be applied at the WUI microscale. So we are focusing our work at this homeowner level. We are actually analyzing the problem at this very fine scale. How are we doing that? Which is our workflow. The overall activity of the WUIVIEW relies on understanding patterns, factors, and processes occurring at the WUI microscale that might give us insights of how to better protect our homes. Our approach, the WUIVIEW approach, has its core on extracting the main pattern scenarios responsible of homes damage from real fire observations. The consortium has devoted quite a lot of efforts analyzing past fire incidents in a very systematic and precise way. Now, the whole idea is that, based on these identified problems, we are formulating research questions that may lead us to scientific-based answers and explanations to these empirical interpretations and assumptions of what we have seen in fires. Our aim is that after our analysis of microscale-related problems, we will be able to come up with a list of recommendations and a set of tools that may help communities, risk managers, and policymakers to get safer microscales. So to achieve our objectives, we have done some preliminary research. Firstly, as I said, we have described the common scenarios we want to analyze, and we have formulated the research questions related to these scenarios. Secondly, we have been reviewing the state of the art in terms of standards. We have gathered information on combustibility of residential fuels, both of natural and non-natural origin, and we have also looked at the behavior of materials typically used in our homes in terms of fire reaction and fire resistance. The analysis and demonstration phase consists on doing the whole lot of experiments and simulations to get these answers properly solved. And once we've come up with the right answers, we will be able to demonstrate and apply our methods and findings in particular study cases. After all this, the WUIVIEW action will provide several types of results and tools that, of course, will be freely available to the entire fire community. Now, I'll give you some more details on these different blocks so that you'll have a better idea of why we are doing what we are doing. So let's start with a workload consisting on identifying what we call pattern scenarios. These scenarios come from the different lessons observed in WUI fires and involve factors and processes that seem to repeat in the affection of buildings. To get those commonalities, to get those common processes, we have basically asked ourselves a key question when analyzing fires, which is actually in the head of many researchers, practitioners, administrations, and homeowners across Europe. The question is, if our houses are built mainly with non-burnable materials, such as stone, bricks, claystone, mortar, or iron, why do actually our houses burn? Although no specific lines of research have been developed on this matter to categorically solve this question, a first reflection based on observation underlines that many complexities and subtleties which may lay behind the destruction of a house in Europe. In fact, many of the observations point at little details in the structure design and maintenance, elements, materials, or configuration, as well as the relative position, size, and type of the potential sources of heat which are responsible for the initiation and consolidation of combustion inside houses, and finally, the affection or complete destruction of a structure. This fault tree reports the different observed pattern that can lead to the fire entering a structure during all of the above-mentioned fire exposure phases. One of the observed ways of a fire entering a house is through windows or doors that are left open due to the sudden and unprepared evacuation, or through poorly designed or maintained vent ducts. Flames or flying embers can enter the house and start in the ignition of curtains, furniture, papers, or any other light fuels. This may progress into full involvement of a room and the eventual burning of the whole house if left unattended. If a property is poorly managed and the combustible elements commonly present at the WUI microscale are placed too close to a structure, they can be responsible of severe impact. The same is plausible in case of a settlement located too close to forested land. The combustion of aforementioned fuels, if placed close to unprotected glazing elements, can cause cracking or collapsing of the glass, hence giving way to the entrance of smoke, firebrands, and flames. Direct flame impingement onto window panes or other weak points within the house envelope can greatly affect structure's integrity. Confined or semi-confined spaces, such as garages, sheds, or storage areas, which contain non-natural fuels, are also vulnerable to fire embers, radiation exposure, and flame impingement. These secondary structures are often placed close to the main structure or are extensions of it. A large accumulation of heat in those areas due to the ignition of their contents could lead to fire spread to the main structure through internal doors, passageways, or windows, as well as to structural damage to the house envelope. Finally, in a wildfire, roofing is directly exposed to flying embers, radiation, and even direct flames. The degree of maintenance and the accumulation of debris on the roof valleys and gutters are two of the suspected factors behind the entrance of fire through the attic, the involvement of the roofing structure, and its eventual collapse. Now, from these lessons learned, based on observed problems and vulnerabilities summarized in the event tree, we have outlined an inventory of simplified pattern scenarios formulating research questions associated to each case. Among others, our identified common problems worth to study are glazing exposure to radiation and flame impingement, degree of protection of blinds and shutters, LPG tank exposure to nearby wildland fire, combustion of residential fuels, and fuel pack combustion in semi-confined arrangements, and the fire propagation over green hedges and ornamental elements. Right, so let's move on to the second block of tasks concerning the review of the state of the art. We have done quite an intense literature review of the burning characteristics of residential fuels, burning rate, heat release rate, flame geometry, and duration of both ornamental fuels and artificial fuels. Unfortunately, we have realized that there is no many data available. But still, we have found some inspiring research coming basically from the United States. This is an image of a fire test of a Christmas tree undertaken at NIST laboratories. This type of experimentation is basically what we have done in a DICE lab in Lausanne. You'll see these activities reported in following videos. We have also been reviewing standards. And again, the message is that several international standards covering WUI safety building and planning already exist, prescribing the design of the WUI landscapes and homes in terms of materials, safety distances, building systems, etc. Some of them might be inspiring for us, but we have to recognize that this cannot be directly used nor easily adapted in Europe, as they have not been developed considering European building practices and rules. But we've checked them all, and we will keep those in mind to meet our objectives. And finally, we have been reviewing fire performance criteria of building materials and systems. We want to know critical temperatures, critical heat fluxes of building materials and systems that will serve us as thresholds to discriminate safe from unsafe scenarios. For example, let's imagine that we can get the temperature evolution with time of a PVC blind in front of a burning tree at a certain distance in two scenarios, a win and a no-win scenario. We may want to consider that PVC melts at 180 degrees Celsius. So with this information, we can easily see how the scenario with wind may lead the flames as close to the blind to get temperatures above the melting point, whereas in the no-wind scenario, our blind will be safe. So this is basically our idea, our rationale. Regarding analysis, how are we analyzing the pattern scenarios? We are basically doing two main tasks. We are doing laboratory experiments to get data from the burning characteristics of ornamental fuels and non-natural fuels that haven't been studied yet. In terms of ornamental fuels, we are basically studying green hedges. As we have already seen, these fuels are problematic because behind a green layer, a huge amount of that material is hidden, contributing a lot to fire percolation through WUI communities. Apart from experiments, our analysis method, the WUIVIEW method, relies on well-established fire protection engineering tools, mainly grounded on physical modeling through CFD-based, computational fluid dynamics-based software. With these powerful simulation tools, we are able to get the evolution of heat fluxes or temperatures in particular building systems or do full analysis of structures. The idea is to get trained with this type of scientific cases to be able to apply these methods to real cases. The WUIVIEW demonstration is taking already place analyzing real properties in Sweden, Portugal, and Spain. What type of outputs we will try to obtain? The outputs from the WUIVIEW action will be diverse and will be hopefully of interest for all different fire actors. Firstly, we will generate new data, new insights regarding fuels hazards and building vulnerabilities. This will be the basis of our overall fire risk reduction strategy and will benefit fire services, communities, fire managers, and practitioners. Next, we will issue modeling scripts and guidelines for open source fire simulation codes to assist fire practitioners in their designs. Professionals will have available a new tool for fire risk analysis with free access to the modeling library and database. We are developing dissemination material at different levels to share our findings, and finally, we will gather those findings by listing scientific-based recommendations for regulations improvement, which will hopefully benefit policymakers and administration. We believe that the WUIVIEW action will result firstly in a general knowledge and awareness improvement to all fire actors. In our opinion, this is very important, since it is with more aware and educated WUI fire actors that a higher level of protection will be achieved. That is for sure. In addition, we will provide fire practitioners with new capabilities for fire risk managing and engineering. Fire engineers and architects will have advanced technology available to develop new skills to face emerging WUI fire safety problems. WUIVIEW has originally been conceived to become a consultancy service to assess WUI vulnerability in real scenarios after the action's time. So we envisage the WUIVIEW workbench operation helping residents and fire risk managers to analyze fire risk in communities, assisting the fire industry and fire engineers and architects, in particular in their designs, and providing scientifically based information to fire services and regulatory bodies. Just to wrap up, WUIVIEW tries to provide insights and methods for self-protection in case of fire. It has been demonstrated that self-protection is a real need, and we have to help our communities with clear messages of how to prepare their homes to face fires. With our project, we are following an analytical method to take the most out of the lessons learned in past fires. We have identified patterns, factors, and processes responsible of home damages, and we are analyzing those through CFD simulations and fire experiments. In our opinion, both techniques are complementary, leading to an overall WUIVIEW methodology quite powerful and flexible. We can analyze different types of problems with different ranges of key variables: fuel loads, building materials, geometries, wind, temperatures, etc. So we will keep on performing our analysis, and hopefully we will contribute to the fire community with scientific-based answers of how to make safer microscales better adapted to incoming climate change fire scenarios. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. More dissemination materials will be soon available